Thank you. So this is the work session meeting for the City Council, Minnetrista City Council on August 17th, 2020. We'll start out with a roll call to make sure everybody can be heard. Mike Broney.
Here.
David Abel.
I'm here.
Brian Grimm.
I'm here.
And Chief Falls.
I am here.
And Allison Fauski.
I am here.
And Allie Pulsos.
I'm here.
And Chris Lindquist.
I am here.
And council members present, Mike Molitor.
Present.
And Shannon Bruce.
I'm here.
And Pam Mortensen.
I'm here.
John Chumperlin.
I'm here.
And Lisa Whalen, I'm here as well. So we can
move
on. Oh, I'm sorry, Gary. I forgot you. Sorry, Gary Peters, are you here?
Yes, I am. Allison, I know how you feel now.
Too many people on the list. All right, here we go. So we only have one item on our agenda, and it's a continuation of our budget discussion. So I'm going to hand this over to Brian right away. You can take it away, Brian.
Okay, Madam Mayor and Council, thanks. As attached in your packet should be all the information that we'll be looking at tonight. There won't be any subsequent PowerPoint or anything like that. That was, I guess, included in the last go around at the last meeting. So what you'll see there is pretty much similar documents to last time. The general fund summary, the revenue and expenditure details, the CIP, the levy, and the financial management plan. I'll skip down to page 2 there. So the main changes that were incorporated from the last meeting were there were some items that were talked about in the general fund. So the Parks Fund budget took a little closer look at that and adjusted down the salary allocation just based on looking a little closer at the trend information from the last few years, and moved a little dollars to the enterprise funds. It seems like we've had a little more time in the water, sewer, and a little less in the parks the last couple years. I think partially with the water treatment plants being on board a few years now and stuff. So you'll see that change was made to the documents. It also came up at the last meeting on the fuel numbers, just to take a little closer look. So I think those were adjusted in a couple areas too. Once again, just looking a little closer at some of the trend information and data. And obviously that can fluctuate a little from year to year based on, the cost and the market and stuff, and, and how much we use, even a little bit based on some different variables. But, I think that was fine to make some adjustments there too. Next bullet point down or number down was, it came up at the last meeting about the fiscal disparities number, and we should have that soon here, but they didn't quite have the information ready yet. So we'll have that, and that's going to pretty much just comes right off the gross levy, that 135,000. So hopefully the last few years it's trended up a little bit each year. So hopefully that happens again, because obviously anything we get back in fiscal disparities lowers our gross levy and then ultimately becomes our net levy a little bit. So we should have that to incorporate into the meeting on September 8th. Number 3 there at the bottom of page 2. So the general fund revenue detail, we did make the adjustment in this option to lower the general fund levy by 25,000 and then up the building permits license number by 25,000. I mean, I think you never know exactly what's going to happen with building permits and stuff, but I think based on the last couple of years, it was okay to at least bump that up a little bit and then take that 25,000. And I think there was some at least talk about having the road levy go from 600 to 725 versus 700. So basically, probably saw that money move between the two different areas there. And then lastly, number 4 there, with decided to move the grader out to the year 2022. So we took out a budgeting for an equipment certificate in 2021. So you'll see that. So the only levy option, the last time there was two. For this time, we just brought back the smaller one, I guess, the one for the little over 3%, the 3.17% net levy increase, 3.08 gross. So you saw that in the packet documents as far as the effect of that. Otherwise, yeah, I guess a couple other points from the memo. We're obviously still talking about roads, and as far as we're getting closer on what we want to do there for 2021. So they'll be at the regular meeting, MSA roads discussion and the MSA fund balance. So that will be to come. The CRF funds is also on the regular meeting, and just to be clear, we've received the funds, but they really haven't been incorporated into either 2020 or 2021's budget, based on, obviously, we're still as a city and city council discussing that, so that the budget is independent of that. It doesn't include that revenue. It's basically wasn't in the original 2020 budget, and we haven't included it as an effect yet, or how to budget for it in 2021. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions on that, but that's basically been set aside. There was a couple other things that were in the packet. Was that tax impact sheet that basically shows with the proposed levy above a reference of a little over 3%, with our growth being 3.4% roughly. If the property owner has that average increase of about 4%, they actually should see their taxes go down slightly for 2021 over 2020. And you think that was the last or second to last page of the packet. You should have seen that slide, or I guess our exhibit, whatever you want to call it. And then I guess, yeah, the last item there was just sort of tried to etch out a schedule for upcoming meetings and budgets, knowing that we have the tax levy funds, but we'll also go on and talk the utility enterprise fund and park funds over the fall too. So I guess, yeah, that's probably about it. We know that we're looking at setting our preliminary tax levy by the deadline at the end of September. It'd be nice to adopt it at the next meeting on September 8th if possible, but I guess that's my presentation in a nutshell. So I probably would open it up for, I don't know if Mike Baroni has any other comments first, or otherwise probably just see what city council's feedback is.
I think we'll just see what the council's reaction is and try to field some questions from them.
Okay, thanks. Council, do you have any questions or comments?
This is Shannon.
Okay. Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, I have some questions about in our council packet for tonight. We saw a $46,000 difference in the 2020 road improvement projects. I think that's what it was called. They came in under budget by about $46,000. Is that money going to be reflected in? Can you show me where that shows up in the 2021 budget, where that money is reflected? That's just going to stay in the road fund, obviously, probably, right?
Yeah, Councilmember Bruce, that's correct. So that would be taken into account with that road, that Fund 406, the road maintenance fund, and then any positive variances or whatever would be used to basically in future years or add more to the 2021 or 2022 budget or whatever for it's funds to be able to use for roads, correct? Yeah.
Right. So essentially, we have an additional $46,000 to spend on roads in 2021 because we saved this in 2020. Right?
Was that in the council packet from last meeting, or I guess was that? I just where that 46? Or sorry.
Yeah, it's in this council packet, and I can tell you what page it's on. Hang on. It's on page 18.
And Brian, I know you had a projection of around 305,000 remaining in the roads fund at the end of 2020. Is this 46,000 part of those projections and that 305,000?
Yeah, we should. Yeah, it should be sort of when I looked at holistically where I thought that would end up. Yeah, I mean, it should be included in that projected fund balance at the end of the year.
Okay. That was my only question. I think that's great that we have an extra $46,000 for next year.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in or have questions or comments? John?
I don't know if it's the place here to drop it in, but I'll throw it out there anyway because it's probably in most of our minds. We're still obviously working on the COVID funds as to how they can properly be used. If the final designation after all the government plans are laid out and we define that we can use some of the money or all the money, depending on what it is, for things that are currently in our budget for 2020. Just extrapolating out, for instance, let's say we were able to use 214,000. That would wipe out what was the projected fund or deficit using the funds, or the excess funds. So now we have excess funds that thought we'd be using, but we're carrying them over, so we're still at 51% or whatever that number is. And I know it'd be a vote of the council, but my belief would be we'd want to somehow use that surplus to lower the 2021 tax levy. If that was the case, how would that be reflected in the summaries that we're looking at here, if that can be answered?
Well, what we would, I was just going to say, what we'd be able to do is that on the bottom of page 4, I've just notated in blue there, I think, sort of a asterisk coronavirus relief funding in 2020. And if we do keep the funds or use them on eligible expenditures, it would be almost a notation below there stating it was 100,000, 300,000, 500,000, sort of how there's like some of those other items below projected positive variance. It would be in that area between the general fund surplus deficit and the year-end fund balance. Somehow we would capture that based on what the council decides to do.
Hey, Brian, this is Mike. Basically, the way I see this is the way the budget's projected now, we are going to have for 2021 a $2.6 million fund balance remaining, and that's a 51% reserve. If we took the 579 and put it all towards this year's expenditures, it would basically ramp up that year-end fund balance to 3.220 million, which would put us at about a 62.7% fund balance compared to operating expense. That's the way I understand how that would work.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it would basically, if we're able, because right now it would be a general fund revenue reimbursement type item. If and your math is correct there. Yeah, instead of being 2.6 million, it would be closer to 3.2. Correct.
Yes. Okay. So rather than adding to the deficit of 214,000, you'd end up with a surplus there. So, okay, thanks.
This is Shannon. I learned from a state legislator that there's language in the CARES Act that provided these funds to local governments, that the act actually forbids that federal funds be used to lower a local government's tax levy. Are you familiar with that language in the CARES Act?
We're not proposing that here.
No, I know
Right.
you're not proposing that. I just want to make sure that Brian is aware of that language, that whatever we do and however we handle that money, there's a prohibition in the CARES Act that forbids local governments from using the money to lower the tax levy. So it can't be reflected in the general fund balance or rationalized that we can lower the tax levy because we got the CRF funds for any reason.
I think we mentioned, or that was mentioned at the meeting last time, and of course, in our regular council meeting, we can ask or we can just clarify. I think you're correct there, but we can just ask Mr. Beatty, our attorney, who's been reading these documents, and clarify that. I know we can't, and I think the reason or the rationale is we're not allowed to just dole out the funds to our residents. In other words, we can't just say, okay, we'll give everybody a $50 check. That is not allowed. And so they're probably looking at it as if you lower the tax levy, just simply to lower the tax levy because of these funds, you're essentially doing the same thing. That might be the reason why. But either way, we're not, in this budget discussion, we're kind of setting the CARES funding aside. We're not considering that right now because we don't know for sure what we can, or, we're still looking at what we can legally spend it on and what we can't. And so I know we'll have that discussion at our regular meeting.
Well, and I just wanted to clarify too that the reason for that rule is because the CRF funds are supposed to be spent on COVID-related expenses that were not previously budgeted, and therefore they wouldn't affect your tax levy. That's the reason for that language in the bill. So, and we can consider that at our council meeting and talk to Mr. Beatty about it.
Right. All right. So, John, does that sort of answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments, John, or questions?
No. Nope.
All right.
I like the changes that were made. They all were things we talked about 2 weeks ago.
All right. Mr. Molitor, Mike, anything?
No, I think, obviously we're at the preliminary levy stage, and I think this covers everything that we've talked about. We'll have more discussion, obviously, before the final levy is set, but I think this is an appropriate starting point.
Okay. And Pam?
I agree with what was said. I think this is a great starting point. John's question was like mine, how the CRF funds would affect the budget. And I don't know, I think all the changes we've talked about look very good.
All right. All right. Any other comments? Okay. Hearing none, then looks like staff that you've done a great job. Seems like the council is in a consensus. We have a consensus here that you're on the right track, and this is a great, as Mike pointed out, starting point. If there's we'll find out a couple of these items as we move forward. There's the 100, whether or not the county will be doling out the 135,000 or what it might be. That'll come into play. And Brian, do you know when you will find out about that?
Oh, yeah, Madam Mayor and Council, the fiscal disparities, they said they should have something by mid to end of August here. So we should have it, and I should be able to plug that right into the resolution that we'll bring to the September 8th meeting to, because that's a number obviously we don't control. If it's 140,000, it brings the net levy down a little more. If it's 130,000, the net levy goes up slightly. But yeah, we should have that by the time we would look to be scheduling adopting that levy resolution, and then at the September 8th meeting, and a couple of the other associated resolutions with the debt levy and the setting the public comment meeting, etc. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Staff, any comments?
I don't think so, Mayor, unless anybody wants to chime in. I think we covered what we need to cover for our work session tonight.
All right, great. Well then, short work session. Y'all can take about an hour or so break. If there is a motion to adjourn.
This is Shannon, also move.
Is there a second?
This is Mike. I'll second.
Mike beat you to it. So motion was made by Shannon and seconded by Mike Molitor. All those in favor signify with aye. I vote aye. Mike?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned, and we will re-adjourn for the 7 o'clock meeting. All right.
Thank you.